Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to this Extreme Consulting Makeover. We're excited to have you. We've got folks trickling in to the waiting room as well as over on our other live platforms, LinkedIn, YouTube, etc. But we're so happy that you're with us. My name is Japheth Mast, Director of Operations here at Management Consulted, and I'm excited to help facilitate today's session. Got a couple of folks from my team on the call with me today, and you'll meet every single one of them here momentarily. But first off, we'd love to understand who you are, where you're coming in from, kind of which stage of recruiting you're in. So if you could tell us two things. One, where are you calling in from? We find it's just fun to know where everybody is located today, where in the world you're at. And then thing number two is which stage of recruiting you're in. So A, if you are in the researching firms, networking kind of that early phase. B, if you're actively applying. C, if you're currently preparing for interviews. D, if it's something else. So that'll just give us some helpful context that'll help frame today's session. All right, let me just look at some of these responses. We have California, New York, Alaska. It's amazing, Caleb, you're in Alaska today. The vest kind of gives it away.
That's right.
All right, we got C, we got BC, early stage. So it looks like the little bit of everything as far as where people are, with the majority in that middle category of actively applying or preparing. All right, great. That's super helpful. So moving on, many of you know that today is the first deadline for BCG's summer associate role. That's their entry-level internship role. So for you undergrad slash specialty master's candidates, you might be joining the call hoping to take away some kind of last minute tips to put towards your application, towards your resume. And so if that's you, you're in a good spot. And we hope this call can really help you out and give you a little boost over that final hump as you apply. If that's not you, if you're not applying today, you're still going to take away a lot of really valuable tips. We highly encourage you to kind of have your resume pulled up and work alongside here, take notes, actively make changes to your resume to get the most out of this. Amazing. So if you are in the recruiting process, we've got a couple of programs that a lot of candidates have found helpful. And so let me just quickly voice over those. And then in about 2 minutes, we'll get into the call. So first up on the left-hand side here is our strategy sprint 1 week virtual consulting project. This is coming up in August. It's a really amazing experience where you get to kind of test drive the consulting experience. So you're going to work in a small team. You're going to get MBB mentorship from one of our amazing coaches, and you're going to have some incredible experience at the end of the week, be able to add to your resume, to be able to talk about in interviews. So if you're looking to add US-based work experience to your resume, this is a great project. Right now, we're running an early bird registration discount for the next about 8 or 9 days. And so take advantage of that. And you can scan the QR code or my colleague Eden, if you don't mind popping the link in the chat here, you can go to learn more about that. Got just a few spots left for strategy sprint. Next up, another one of our programs, this is our most popular program, is called Black Belt. But we've got a prep cohort coming up in August, but essentially this is a tailored, structured coaching program. And as soon as you join, you can schedule your first coaching session for as soon as tomorrow or the next day. So right, you can start as soon as you join, but it's going to give you 8 hours of guided coaching with our MBB team. They're going to work with you to create a prep strategy and then execute on that strategy with you. And it's really effective. About 80% of folks who complete it land at least one offer. So we've got about 25 spots and they're flying off the shelf. So if that's something that you're interested in, please join us today. If you've got questions, hey, is this program right for me? Which of these programs are right for me? I'd love to introduce you to my colleague Eden to share about how you can get more information and even schedule a call with her. So Eden, I'll give you the floor.
Great. Thanks, David. Hi, everyone. He is right about the strategy sprint seats flying off the shelf. They really are. We run this event about 5 times a year. And it's an excellent opportunity for you to get US-based work experience if that's what you're looking for, applicable experience on your resume, similar to an internship. And also, it helps you figure out, is consulting right for me? Would I find this fun? Do I have what it takes? Let me catch the vibe in essence. And so, yep, highly recommend that project. If you're looking for information on what product we offer, as in what kind of coaching support, what kind of how we can tailor this program to you, any and all questions, are you the right fit for this industry? Those kinds of questions we can face in a 15-minute meeting. So feel free to either scan the QR code or use the really long link in the chat. You can use that to book a meeting with me. I'd love to chat. I have some available times today and tomorrow if you want to do it quickly. Thanks, y'all. And Caleb, I think you are up next. Tell us all about the Alaska Wilderness and the community.
Yes, yes. We'll say last balloons for another day, but the community is an incredible place to support you. If you're tired of DIYing your case prep journey, then really joining Black Belt and having the support of our expert coaches, myself, our team, and our whole community is the place to be. So the community is a spot where you get one-on-one support. You get a one-on-one career strategy session with myself. I help you orientate to maximize the program. You have over 200 plus new friends and case practice partners in the community, and that's growing by multiples every month. And we also have an amazing roster of exclusive events just for the community. We've already had some incredible events so far this month, and a few more events coming up. Is on Friday. We're actually hosting a boutique pure international strategy firm, OC&C. We have a New York partner coming in to meet with us. That's a chance. It's an intimate setting info session where our community members and black belts get to actually ask questions with this partner, and even being part of the program, get to have their resumes put in a resume book to pass along to the firm for review by OC&C after the event. So when you join Black Belt, we bring in 12 of these boutique firms every year, and we have typically between 8 to 10 different events that are exclusive just for Black Belts and community members. We also have a live case gathering event where you can come practice cases with other community members, and we also have a frameworking event coming up later this month from an ex-BCG consultant. So if you're looking for that kind of support and want access to resources and events you can't find anywhere else, then join Black Belt, and I'll see you in the community.
Amazing. Thank you, Caleb. Hope to see many of you in the strategy sprint and or black belt. All right, it's time to transition to today's call, the Extreme Consulting Makeover. So we've got two amazing contestants with us today. We're going to start with Abdullah. Abdullah, thank you for joining us. While you are sharing your resume, would love just a little bit of context about where you personally are in the recruiting process, and then one or two kind of big questions that you've been asking lately that we might be able to help clarify for you today. And then Jenny Ray, I'm going to give you the floor to lead this session.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. Yeah, my name is Abdullah. As far as the stage of my application process, I'm currently in between applying and interviewing. I don't think I'm ever going to stop applying until I get the job. So yeah, so I'm between those two. So I'll get my resume up right now. And then as I get that up, questions I've been having is really related to experience. A lot of the positions require 2 years plus of experience. So I wanted to know how rigid that framework is if I found the position that fits myself, but doesn't quite fit my experience level.
I love it. Well, Abdullah, I'll jump in if that's all right, Japheth. Are you good turning over the floor to me? Woo-hoo. Okay, awesome. I'm Jenny Ray LaRue. I'm excited to meet you and walk through your resume and your details today.
Well, there's no today.
I just want to start is where do you want to go, and also maybe more specifically, what challenges have you had so far? Because I can go through your resume and see what I can see, but if we're trying to target something specific, then it's really helpful to know what that is.
Yeah, kind of sticking within the management consulting world, I've had, as you'll see in my resume, mostly consulting experience, and most recently, I would say a management consulting experience. So kind of sticking within that realm, if that makes sense and answers your question.
But are you open to boutiques? Do you want to stay in Chicago?
Yeah.
Are you, how flexible and specific are you? Are you open to going and getting more experience if you need it? just tell me kind of what's on the table, I guess is a
Yeah,
better way to say
so of course, open to boutiques, have been applying to boutiques, and open to Chicago, and just moving. I'm really open to anything right now. So even if it's across a different state within the United States, that's completely within my ability right now. So
cool.
pretty flexible if
And
that
you're not at
gives you an
Grant
idea.
Thornton anymore, right? You're finished
No,
at Grant Thornton. Okay,
yeah.
awesome. Great. Well, what we'll do is we'll run through this, and then are you, when you're using your resume, are you applying blindly? Are you sending a networking email? Have you had networking calls? Have you gotten feedback from anybody who's like, we love it, but, or are you just not getting an audience? Tell me where the challenges in the recruiting process are.
Good question. So I've had a mix of just applying as well as networking. I've had success in networking where I would reach out and then I'd hear back, and I get an email address where I can directly send my resume, rather than go through traditional channels of applying. So I've had some success there. I've also applied just blindly where I wasn't able to get in contact with a recruiter, or whatever. So I've kind of had both those experiences. And as far as interviewing opportunities, I have had a couple of those. And really where I'm struggling is I know the market is getting better, but the opportunities are scarce, especially for somebody who graduated a year ago and has had just a year of experience. A lot of the positions I found require 2+ years. So that's kind of where I'm finding a difficulty personally.
Great. Okay, so they don't care about 2+ years of experience. All that they care is that you like the job that you did for the last year and that you didn't fail or get fired because you couldn't perform, right? These are the things that they care about. But if you're going to apply through digital filters, they're going to screen you. So you're going to have to go through the back door, and you're going to need to talk to somebody inside the organization, tell them why you loved the work that you have done already, why you want to do the next level of that work. And so what we're going to now work on your story to see if we can get you ready for that. But ultimately, I mean, you have a lot that's going for you. So I'm excited to help unpack that a little bit. So let's do this
Thank you.
for everybody so that they can see it and so I can see it. Let's just walk through each of the pieces, but can you go in chronological order? So can you kind of be like, hey, this is what I did for university, and then these were my work experiences. So can you go through the resume as if you were actually walking through it more like in an interview?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I went to university at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. That's where I got my bachelor's of science in finance. As part of the university, I was James Scholar Dean's List, and I tried to engage in a lot of different organizations as well within. From there, I was able to achieve my first kind of internship. It was for a company, Creative Souls. It was kind of an independent nonprofit consulting experience, and it was a team that was selected out of a class within the university.
Cool.
And from there, I went to Public Consulting Group. That's where that's an internship experience with an actual company, based off in Boston. They hired about 53 interns. I did a lot of technology consulting work, helping with hybrid workflow model, digitalizing tax filing processes, and it was remote. And then my most recent experience was with Grant Thornton. That was my job right out of university. Sixth largest professional service firm, if you guys are not too familiar with it. But there I was a finance transformation consulting associate, worked on various different projects, all within the transformation world. If you guys aren't familiar, it's really helping the CFO teams within companies and helping to specifically transform their finance department through new softwares or current state assessments or anything of that nature. And that's where we are now in the job search process. That was kind of high level. Let me know if you want a little more detail.
That's great. Yeah, perfect.
Position.
No, that's awesome. Okay, so let's do the easy stuff first. So scroll down to the bottom. We're going to come back to professional experience. I certainly think that there's something that you can do here. So in your education work, because you got a BS in finance, you have a great GPA. Is there anything else that we could highlight under here? I'm wondering if there are, you have, right, soccer, running, the national parks, which are kind of fun for hobbies at the bottom. But and you have organizations that you worked with that you didn't include in leadership and community development. I'm just wondering if there's more that we could add to that to really demonstrate that you were powerful. Because I'm going to strip some stuff out of some of the other places. So we're going to make a little space. One of the first proof points, Abdullah, is like, I was a good student, right? So because one of the hurdles that I'm sure some people on this call have, totally different conversation, is I wasn't a good student. So if you were, we want to highlight that you were, and we want to make sure people see, and know about that. We're also, by the way, going to move your education down below leadership and community involvement, because it's either at the top or it's the second to last. We either put but we always put the experience and the leadership and community involvement in the same area together.
Yeah. So actually,
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. One thing I was struggling with is trying to stick to the page limit. I thought because I had professional experience, I wanted to highlight that. And so that's why you find that I had to strip off of my education and leadership and community involvement. So I do have things that I can include within here and that I can expand within here as well. But considering you're saying that, we'd strip out some of the professional experience, I do have some stuff that I can maybe delve deeper into it. For example, Student Government Association. I had a leadership role in that. That's not really highlighted here as well.
Yeah, cool. So I mean, at the beginning of it, you don't necessarily have to pull them all into the leadership section, but certainly you could add some more context inside the education section, because basically you have 3 proof points that you have the opportunity to highlight here on the resume, and then 1 bonus one, right? So the 3 proof points are: I was a good student, I was a great leader when I wasn't paid to be a leader, and when I'm on the job, I'm an awesome employee. The 4th one is I'm just a fun person to hang out with. That's in the personal section, but each one of the sections represent one of those talking points, and you're underweighted here on your education. Right. I don't see that, like you got the James Scholar. I don't know what that is. Was it a big scholarship? Was it a little scholarship? Was it selective or not? So like just adding some bulk to that to further give that proof point, you're going to want to take away from some of the other sections where that's already sufficient. I'll talk next about the leadership category. By the way, just make it easy for people. Just call it leadership. Like let's not call it leadership community or student organizations. Like some, or anytime I find an and on the resume, I look to act something, because I'm trying to get clarity, and leadership is just good enough here. So just so you know.
Okay.
Phi Theta Kappa is great. You were not the president of Phi Theta Kappa though, right? Like you were the president on campus.
Yeah, very good point. I was the president of the chapter.
Okay, perfect.
Of our chapter.
So you might just want to put like chapter president. I think people would have assumed that probably would be what it is. But what I don't know is about the chapter. So I think in general, when I skim your resume, what's missing is a really clear description of what the context was for each one of them. And you've put some stuff on there, but it doesn't have data. So you don't have, right, Phi Theta Kappa, like local chapter with 780 members. What you do have is largest international honor society, but you don't have that piece. And so adding budgets, number of people is going to help you in the beginning of each introduction. Every single one of these pieces of your resume have to be a hook. So when you write, developed a comprehensive outreach plan, does that feel sexy to you? Like, it doesn't feel sexy to me. So I need to know something that I can visualize and something that has that sexy factor at the beginning, right? So it's like grew organization by 40%. Okay, awesome. That's like more interesting. Or like held 200 meetings over 2-year period, or like led organization through like COVID virtual transformation. But like it has to be something that's a little bit more vivid, a little bit more personal, and a little bit more numbers driven right at the start to get there. So again, you're gonna, any way that you can, you've got numbers in every line, which is just one of our proof points. That's great. That's a good start. That helps me stop and want to read them. But the earlier in the line you give me the numbers, the more likely it is I read the whole sentence too. So so I would say that that's kind of right. You have collaborated with counselors to distribute videos, resulting in an additional 1.8 million in scholarship funds dispersed. Was that just to your chapter, or was that nationally? Yeah. So just like, right, like dispersed 1.8, or like increased scholarship disbursement by 1.8 million. immediately kind of is like, oh, that's a big number, interesting number, and then talk to me a little bit later about how you did it. So kind of flipping around a lot of each one of those points, I think could really help engage your reader a little bit more. Also, when it comes to leadership, like honestly, this is also true in your work experience, but people are more polite about it. But like, I just need 2 bullet points. So pick the 2 best. And I'd rather have 3 experiences with 2 bullet points that I'm likely to read rather than one that has 3 or 4. And so I think you need to just like really think about the point of each one of your line items, and that's going to make it super powerful. Kurt's Cafe, like local nonprofit cafe that offers learning for underserved communities. So again, I think you could just say that in a punchier way. I mean, tell me what Kurt's Cafe is. Is it who are the underserved communities? What's the learning? Like, just tell me what it is, and let's try to make it more vivid.
Yeah, so it's basically a cafe. They work at this neighborhood near me. It's called Evanston. It's a lot of underserved communities there. They work with Hispanic communities and African American communities.
Cool.
And within the bullet points, what they did, this was specifically around COVID time, just created these weekly packages that we would hand out to those underserved communities and the parents of those children, so that we're able to kind of alleviate some of the stress and provide some fun activities for the children.
Awesome. So I think that basically just saying, right, I don't think you have to say local, because a cafe by nature is local, right? But just right, not, nonprofit cafe serving, right, 1,000 underserved families with, right, or just something like that, 1,000 plus, however many. You can talk about the cafe in general, not the project. You can separate those contexts if you want to. And then again, right, go back and think about in your education if there's anything else that you want. But I would rather have your you don't have to put Phi Theta Kappa, by the way, under University of Illinois if you already have it in leadership. So I'd rather hear about student government organization a little bit more detail. Like you might even want to separate bullets entirely in there, so you kind of fit more kind of concepts, and that these will be links later for your stories that you're going to want to tell inside your interviews. So the more that you have here, the more lead into the stories it will be as well. I want to talk about your personal section. And by the way, you need a space. It needs to be at least 5 points. It doesn't have to be a full space, but you do need a space in between your sections just to give me a visual little breather. But in the personal section, you here, like in the education section, to just touch on format. Your format's this is a good template. There's nothing really wrong with your format, but you have honors and organizations bulleted, but then the words not bolded down here. And then at the bottom, you have the words bolded at the beginning. You just want to pick one, right? Like have a consistent format. I like the bolding. I kind of like a bullet and a bolding that really draws the eye. And so that's probably what I would think about there. Your languages are great. Your technical skills are fantastic. Those are going to catch a lot of AI screeners of your resume. And your hobbies are fun, but I think you could add a little bit of a spicier one. Like I love the national parks piece, but I think again, you might just want to do a little bit more with that. But other than that, I think both of these are good starts. And I think we should spend the rest of your time just talking about your professional experience. By the way, when we edit a resume, what we start with is the format. We're just like, hey, is the format good? So I kind of skipped over it because yours was good. Then the second thing that we look at is the balance of the content, which is kind of, I just dove right in and was like, hey, I want more here. But overall, the issue is that we're overweighted right now. You're only a year out of school. We're overweighted right now on your work experience. But really, I'm going to be the most interested in just a couple bullet points for Grant Thornton and Public Consulting Group. And Creative Souls, it's cool to have in there. That fits in there right now. Soon that's going to end up in your leadership section though, right? And so when I think about the weighting, I think it's fine right now, but I'm going to strip a few things out of here just by making these more punchy. So pick one. We're going to just rewrite one bullet point, and we're going to kind of talk through how to do that here.
Okay, so one bullet point per professional experience?
Just one in total. I think we'll probably only have time for one, but I just want to show you how I would think about it or how I would rethink that bullet point.
Then I'd rather work on Grant Thornton, so we can work within Grant Thornton specifically, and then maybe we can do
Let's work on a first bullet point. It might not even be here right now.
Okay.
Because what I would like to hear is how many projects you did over the course of the year and what the type of client was. Like, I want you to draw me in immediately because you think you've done it with 6th largest professional services firm, but remember, everybody's going to be like, yeah, we know what Grant Thornton does. But if they don't sell against them, they're not going to know exactly what you did. So we need to tell them at the beginning. So were there 3 clients total based on the first bullet? Or is that kind of your summary bullet now?
Yeah, so we over the course of the 9 months that I worked there, worked with 3 clients, similar work, similar industry. So it was within mostly insurance, the 3 different clients, one of which was maybe a little more tech. And yes, similar work in that evaluated current state and then potentially found opportunities there in order to, improve the company one way or another.
Awesome. What was the smallest revenue of the 3 companies?
Smallest revenue off the top of my head, I would say it was American Fidelity, which um, I'm honestly not quite sure. They were the smallest company, but I can see if I can find their revenue. That was the earlier one I did, so I don't have those numbers off the top of my head.
Sure. Yeah, but basically, if you would put in there something like this, right? For 3 insurance and insure tech firms, and then in parentheses, like, $500 million plus in revenues, right? Or $500 million plus, or put that even before the insurance and insure tech firms, then immediately I get a much more vivid idea of who your clients were. Because the reality is that early in your career, what you did matters a lot less than who you did it for. Right? The fact that you worked at Grant Thornton matters more than what you did when you were there. Who you worked for when you were there matters a lot more as well. And that will immediately engage me by knowing a little bit more about what you did. And if I have a financial services practice, quickly that's like, oh, he probably knows something about financial services. So then what you talk about here is really boring. And I don't mean that rudely. I'm just saying, like, I don't care that you coordinated dozens of weekly meetings with key stakeholders. Like, I don't care at all. And it's also really vague language. So I would basically axe most of that. You have workshops, so you can either tell me the number of workshops or the purpose of the workshops. The hundreds of functional use case requirements, that's all. You're using like really jargony language. So like, why did they hire you and what did you actually do for them? What was their problem that you hired them for?
So essentially they they had a lot of duplicated efforts within their finance department team, and they were looking to introduce they were choosing between 3 potential software systems in order to help the Treasury Department. So we did a use case evaluation, figured out what it is that they need, and try to align that with the 3 different potential software opportunities for them, and try to find the one that fits them the best.
Awesome. Was it cost saving or compliance or?
So it was for essentially the company is growing, so they wanted something that will withstand the test of time. They wanted to leave Excel. So I would say long-term cost saving, even though there would be an upfront cost.
Gorgeous. Okay. I would say, so the way that I would say something like that, and again, you can work on it afterwards, would be, right, for 3 insurance and insurtech companies, parentheses, $500 million plus, evaluated 3 software providers for Treasury compliance, right? And then created 17 metric dashboard. Like I'd be like really specific about actually not the actions that you took, but the summary version of those actions, if that makes sense. And the more metrics that you can add to give clarity to it, you'll never give away proprietary information, but just telling somebody like, I created a dashboard. I, ran through this, like offering a clear recommendation for each one, then immediately that bullet point just becomes more vivid and clear. So you just have to stay away from like, I did a lot of things. You have to really say like, I did this specifically for this client. So anyhow, if you go through each one of your bullets, again, none of these would, like, all these would probably pass an AI filter, right? You're a smart person and you can very clearly see it. It's just not vivid storytelling. And that's really what we're trying in a really competitive market like that. That's what we're trying to do, is try to engage people, not just in I think this guy could maybe do it, but this is the one we want. We're trying to move you to the top of the pile. And then under public consulting, your second bullet is 3 lines. Like, I will never, not in a million years as a human, ever read 3 lines. So they've got to be 1 or 2 at the most. So either break it up against 2, but again, right, manage extensive project to digitalize tax filing processes across various localities. Right? It's just not interesting or sexy. It's probably really powerful work, but like, how many localities? Why were they digitizing? Who was it for? Or just any of these kind of things would be really a lot more powerful. When you've done consulting work in the past, if you want to signal that you did consulting work, highlight a bullet for each one of your clients. So start it with like a bolded, right, for a 100 million insurtech company, for a $6 billion insurance company, for blah, 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 and like highlight those in bold, whether it's in line or just at the beginning of the bullet point, and then like, summarize the project, because then I can see really clearly that you've done 7 projects in total in your different work that you've done. And when I was at Bain, that's exactly what I did.
Okay.
So that can also be really helpful. I just think that's your biggest opportunity here, is not adding something that's missing. I think you've got a really good balance. I can see that you're financially literate, that you're interested in business, that you've done project-oriented consulting work before, that you're an interesting person. I love the national parks piece, by the way. I would probably move that up in your interests. And maybe add, other than Yosemite, if you have like a really obscure one that you love, something like that.
Yeah.
Your goal here is to generate conversation around your proof points, and I think you could be a lot more impactful doing that.
Beautiful.
I know it's probably time for us to move on to our next volunteer/victim, but do you have any questions for me before we do it?
No, this was great. It's exactly what I was actually looking for, and that's a really good. I've pondered a lot over my resume and formatting to make sure it's perfect, and somehow that has blown over my head, the bullet point.
Well,
and bolded,
there's nothing
so
wrong with it. It's just like, I wouldn't be like, I can't hire this guy because he spelled something wrong or the spacing is off. There's nothing wrong with it, but you're missing a few of those visuals, which would
Yeah,
make it a little easier
definitely.
for the reader.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That was more than
You're welcome.
I could
Yeah,
ask
if you
for.
want us to help you with an actual edit, just reach out. We can do it. We always give a discount if you come on and do this with
I
us.
appreciate it.
So just
Thank you
let
so
us
much.
know. Yeah,
Yeah.
you betcha. And by the way, I don't know if you're interested in black belt, but that those events that Caleb is holding, if it wasn't clear enough, like there's basically like up to 20 people in the room, and every person has the opportunity to ask a question. And these firms every single one of them is hiring today. So for any of you that are like, hey, I'm really in an active job search, I can't think of a better opportunity. We've busted our butt to try to get you guys in front of those people. And a lot of them are very impressed by the community that we put together. So just as a note for that, sometimes it's hard for us to communicate, like, this is what the power of what's happening inside there, but it's not the 500 or the 1,000 people sessions that we have over here. Out of all of them, 20, 30 people might show up. So anyhow, hopefully that's helpful for you. Thanks again for joining.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure. All right, Japheth, I'm ready.
Amazing. All right. Thank you again, Abdullah. Jenny Ray, you ready for your next contestant?
Absolutely.
Or do you want to take a few questions?
Woke up ready. Somebody offered me coffee this morning. I was like, you do not want to do that, y'all. You do not want to give me coffee.
Bad idea.
Me on coffee is a bad scene. Anyone on my team can testify, right, Japheth?
Confirmed. All right, cool. Well, we've got Shreya with us. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Excited to have you. Kind of the same process we went through earlier. If you can start with pulling up your screen or your resume on your screen, and then just sharing a little bit of that initial context about which stage of the recruiting process you're in, and any kind of big questions you have about the process.
Yeah, so hi, thank you again for having me. My name is Shreya, and I'm currently applying for internships. I'm going to be a junior, so I'm applying for that summer internship. In terms of where I am in that process, I've done my networking, still doing it. It's been a lot easier at some firms as opposed to others. But it's going. And then today I'm trying to apply to the BCG one. So I've had my resume looked at, but every single time it's something new. So I just want to make sure that it's like finalized and good to go. Yeah, and then in terms of what specific questions I have, I think at this point in the process, I just want to do like a quick skim and make sure that everything is okay.
Perfect. Okay, love that. Shreya, can you just zoom in a little bit so I can see it a little bit more? By the way, this is the Ross template. We cannot break this, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. One of the missions of my life is to get Ross to add an experience section and a leadership section, like separate the two, because I think it's so confusing from a firm perspective to be like, wait, were you paid or not paid? Or is this a campus organization or something? So someday, like, if my greatest dreams come true, we'll get them to do that. But anyhow, so first of all, the resume looks great. It's, you have a lot of assets available to you, and the work that you've already done on networking, even though the firms are kind of like, hey, look, you're at a target school, networking doesn't matter. It matters. Like, don't let them lie to you. They don't necessarily do active referrals the way that they would, like in Abdullah's situation. After a conversation, the question would be, awesome, could you refer me for this role that I'm applying for? And they would go in and be like, hey, hire this guy instead of whoever else is in the pile. They don't do that, but they do discuss you, they do rank you, and especially in the discussion forum when they're trying to decide who comes up for the interviews, having talked to people makes a huge difference. So first of all, I just want to put your mind at ease about that, because I think you're in a good position. So yay. I'm going to just go through your resume from top to bottom. I think it'll be easier for everybody, and it'll be good to talk about. And I'm just going to highlight a couple of things that I see. And then I don't really want you to make changes if you're so close to the last minute, but I want you to keep your eyes open for what you're looking to do potentially going in the future. Because again, if there's no real issues, we're not going to worry about making changes for them. So first of all, under your BBA and the May 2026 graduation, so just to confirm, we're applying now for 2025 internships, right? Okay, great. And so GPA is good. The higher you get it, the better it will be. But the 3.5 cutoff is like a really magical cutoff. And what the firms actually really look for is 3.7. So like if you could just nudge it a little bit, that would be something that a 3.7 and above is fine. They don't need a 4.0 or a 4.2. I don't know if Michigan does 4.2s and above, but like they really don't need it to be higher than a 3.7, but 3.7 will help you in a McKinsey situation, in the BCG situation, just stand out a little bit more. Emphasis and strategy, the Herb Undergraduate Research Fellow, will everybody reviewing this know what that is, or should you add a little context to something like that?
So it's not exactly a minor, but it's kind of like it, and it's a sustainability thing. So do you think I should add in parentheses like
I think you just add a little bit of context around that. Yeah, like a six course, right, program on sustainability or something like that. Or if it's selective, right? Like 10% of students selected for like specialty seminar, or if it comes with money, if you were like sponsored for it, then adding some of that context is part of what's helpful. I went to the University of Virginia, similar to Michigan, big school, and so a lot of people that are reviewing the resumes don't necessarily know. There were like three things that they knew, right? They knew lawn residents, they knew the Gray Carrington scholars, and they knew Eccles, but like anything else was kind of like, if you knew it, you knew it, and if not. So adding a little bit of that context can be good. The Campbell's Marketing Case Competition finalist, I love that. You might, again, just want to add like, right, team of four, Chicago, right? Like kind of if there was anything else, if it was virtual, you just might, adding a little bit of that in is cool. VP of Membership, Business Boot Camp, Peer Mentor, and Finalists, like all of these are good. And the way that you stated them are fine. And again, similar to what I said with Abdullah, it just might be helpful for you to add in any details if there's like membership numbers, budget numbers, activity numbers, if you have them. It's not necessary, but it's kind of like, that would be something I might play with. For your financial services intern experience at Honigman, will everybody know what Honigman is?
Yeah, I mean, it's the biggest law firm in Michigan, and it has branches in Chicago as well. So I'm hoping, because that's a city that I'm mainly applying to, that they'll know. But do you think I should add context there?
I think it's always a little helpful just to say, like, right, for largest for largest like Michigan law firm, or, and also again, like if you know that they had 500 applicants for an internship and you were one of 3 chosen, like anything that you can highlight selectiveness of the firm or selectiveness of your position can be helpful as context there. And then also, who was the SQL and the Excel-based inventory dashboard? Was that for the firm? Was that for an internal office of the firm, or was that for a financial services company?
That was for the firm.
Were there any things that you did that were for a client company?
No, I'm in the business department, so I'm not really on that side. I'm more of the internal firm side.
Okay, awesome. So what I would write is for internal consulting practice.
Okay.
Right? Like, because then you're really clear. And again, right, where there are 20 people in this internal consulting practice, it could be like back office, back ops, but like in general, your job was to do, as I can read it here, analytics and projects to improve the firm position. So instead of jumping right into the first project that you did, I think that maybe like rejiggering that a little bit and adding that line of context will immediately help translate the work that you did there from the consulting role. And I'm guessing it might be part of the story that you would tell in an interview too, right? Like, I thought I wanted to do this in law, or I thought I wanted to do this in business, so I got an internal consulting role. I verified I do want to do it. Now I want to do it for multiple clients. So just wording that in a little bit of a different way. Again, nothing wrong with the way that you wrote it, but I think you could engage the reader in the story of that experience a little bit better. And like, I like the wellness one, but if I had to axe one, that's the one I would axe to add in the context one, right? The ones that are a little bit more analytic heavy and metrics heavy, I think would be great. Great. Wolverine Media Group. Are all of the rest of these on campus, or this is why the Michigan?
Yeah, the rest are on campus.
Okay, awesome. And so for the Michigan Daily, how many either readers or staff are there?
We don't have the readers, but there are around 30 people on staff.
Okay. So let's see, engaging parents of seniors, bring 50 plus ed. I would kind of, I feel like the same thing holds true. If I were going to change one thing on here, it would just be help translate, right? Like, tell me what you're so you have like led email marketing initiative, which sounds like a project, but like, what was your overall job as the marketing specialist, right? Like worked with 6-member marketing team to increase readership, ad spend, and X. And like, overall, this is what I did. And then go into the projects and the bullet points afterwards. So the way that you did it isn't wrong. I prefer that as a reader if I'm actually going to read through everything. It helps me to engage. And then is it Rem and Company or REM and Company? I'm a child of the 80s, so I always think about REM. Okay, awesome. So Rem and Company, were you all 3 of these positions at the same time, or were those 3 different roles that you had?
I was consulting strategist first, and then team lead and director of recruitment at the same time.
Okay. I would probably, it's a little confusing when we have all those things in there. Executive market research for, and that's when I just kind of start, right? I'd be like, for Michigan-based vegan cafe, right? Researched like neighborhood market, or researched like 20,000 person market, or researched 7-mile radius or something like that, right? Whatever you kind of, what the parameters were on there might be really good. And then was this a part of the business boot camp?
No.
Experience? This is a separate thing. I think that just I like the consulting strategist piece, but I actually think the project team lead and director of recruitment, if you did that later, you should put that first. I know it seems a little backwards.
Okay.
Usually we would kind of like separate the positions. Again, the Michigan format doesn't let us do that, but we would like separate a position underneath and then be like, this is what I did as a consulting strategist, and then this is the bullet point for something else. So it makes it a little easier to talk through that promotion. But yeah, project team lead and director of recruitment. I would just put project team lead. I think just pick one.
Okay.
No need to muddy that. And then psychologically empowered business leaders, serve on founding board of student organization. Cool. Again, just I need some numbers. So you are missing numbers in like 50% of your later bullets. in Rem and Company and in the PEBL and the BBA Council. So just really look to see if you can add, a number into any of those lines. And then same thing, like I just need 2 lines. So let's figure out how to get it a little shorter.
Okay.
I'm looking at your additional. I think your additional is a really great example of being vivid. I love that. I think you should use that same vibe in other places on the resume. Paleo baking and cooking aficionado, specializing in pecan pie. I can smell them right now. I obviously I need you to be on my team so that you can bring them into my office. Like these are all the things that I love. So everything that I've told you so far, if I'm totally honest, I don't know that it will make a difference. Like we did nothing earth shattering. But I think it's important for a different reason. And I just want to share this with you because I think if you've done the work on the networking side, if you can engage them a little bit more in translating the story, which might happen separately in a cover letter, an essay, an intro email, or something else, I think that's your real opportunity. And when you miss the communication points on your resume, when you don't tell them the context and the vivid experience and you don't know how to translate it, then it's harder to do in the other settings that are really going to matter for you. So whether you put in the work now before BCG tonight or whether you wait, that's the reason that I would do it, is to really think like, who am I? And does that show up here? Because you're not just the cumulative of your experiences, you're more appropriately the accumulation of your stories. And so the better the story can be, I think the more compelling that will come across. So I'm open to questions, but I just think that that's the main thing. I don't want you to freak out and think I have to go do everything, because I'm like, I don't know. They probably will see exactly the same stuff, right? Your GPA is the same. Oh, one thing that you didn't put in there were like SAT or ACT scores. Did you have some?
I did, and when I was asking about that, they said to maybe just leave that off. When I was applying to Bain, they asked me, so I put it on the application itself
Yep.
instead of the resume. So do you think it's fine, or do you think I should add that on?
If they were good, put them on.
Okay.
So generally it's like 700 and above on each section is kind of what they're looking for. So but yeah, like if you're like walking around with a 780 on everything, like definitely put that on there.
Okay.
Yeah, that can be a proof point that's also helpful.
Yeah. And then in terms of adding the context in, I think one thing that I really struggled with when making this was making sure that they were, 2 lines and not too long.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the Pebble one, it was originally 3 bullets, and they told me to actually axe one and combine it. So if I were to add the context, how do I make sure that I'm not cutting out something important, but also not passing that line of being over 2 lines?
Let's see here. Let's use Pebble as an example, right? With how many people were on the founding board?
We had 7 people on the founding board.
Great. With 7-member founding board of student org, right? Hosted wellness events. Like you already told me that's psychologically empowered. So I don't think we have to reinforce psychology, business, and mental health. Like it's like so many things that you're combining. So hosted 7 or 12 or 19 or 3, right? Wellness events.
Mm-hmm.
And 8 industry workshops. Okay. On psychology in the workplace or something like that, right? Or in parentheses, example, psychology and venture capital, something like that. So using examples instead of trying to summarize is usually more compelling, because you can always add to, right? We hosted 11 workshops. You don't have to be like, here's the list of all 11 names. You can just be like, this is the coolest one that you will probably understand. So I'm going to use that as an example of what I did.
Okay, sounds good. And then the last thing was you like my resume, it's not as high as it could be. Sorry, my GPA. So do you think, the experiences do give me like a good chance? Like honestly, do you think that I would make it past the resume combing stage?
I have no idea. I like I hope so, because certainly I think that you fit the category. But like, honestly, if you told me that you were an engineer who had a 3.56, but you had also worked at like Exxon or something like that, it would be easier to answer. Like sometimes the more core your pathway is, the harder it is to identify, because the more like rogue behavior that you have, the right. If you took like a 2-year gap year and like studied polar bears, they'd be like, "Well, we'll go on her," and so like I think they're going to look at this and be like, you're really good at what you do and you're involved and there's a lot going here and we'd love to interview you. But with 60, usually that's the number that they'll take for the first round interview. Sometimes it's as low as 30, depending on the year. Like it's just such a small pool. And it's, if you know that there's 8 like music majors applying and you showed me this resume, I'd be like, yeah, you're going to get it. But because you're a BBA student, it's just a little harder to say, because they're looking for not just the quality of your resume, they're looking for all of the different pieces around it. So here's the thing, like a lot of this process is mental. We have the Pebble work, right? So the psychological piece of it. And whatever you don't do this summer will lead to something that you do, and what you do will be valuable. So when I was a student at UVA, I was like a little bit unusual, and I could have absolutely gotten an interview, but I didn't want it then. And I traveled around the world and shaved my head and didn't get a job. And then that made me irresistible to employers, contrary to what my parents thought that was going to do, which was like put me in the trash bin. Right. So I think there's a part of this process that is like, one part is tell your history, tell it in the most compelling way you can. And the second one is shape the future. And everything that you've done so far told me that you're trying to do that in the best way possible. So if it happens, go for it. Like give it everything. If you get an internship offer, you're set, you're done. Like then it's yours to mess up. Right. And and the internship offers are challenging, but you're also earlier and the pool gets bigger next year and it gets bigger in your MBA. And it's, there's like, it gets more competitive when you're a professional hire. So anyhow, I don't know if that's encouraging, but like if you get the opportunity, just like cancel your life and focus on it in the next couple of weeks. And if you don't, like go figure out what's going to really make you like sing in the next year, develop you, get you excited, and you just never know. Like you just have no idea where things are going to lead for you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jenny. That was very helpful.
Good. Any final questions for me? Okay. Well, thank you for volunteering. And send me a private LinkedIn message on what happens, because I'd really like to know.
Thank you so much, Jenny.
Yeah, you're welcome. Japheth, we have time for questions.
Amazing.
What's a skinny?
Yeah, we can do questions. We've been keyboard warrioring it over here, me and Eden. So I think we answered pretty much all of them, but we can take some more. And there's one or two that I'd like to go back to. I think it'd be beneficial for.
Awesome. So if you have a question that you want to ask live, we have time for 2. So raise your Zoom hand and ask your question. And if we have no Zoom hands raised, then I will address a few of the questions that came in the chat through and Japheth can just read those out. So we'll give everybody about 20 seconds to raise your Zoom hand if you have a question that you want to ask live.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for joining, by the way. I hope that I hope you see there's so many layers to this resume process, and it's a very humbling experience to ask somebody else to look at your stuff. Yeah, cool. Ava, what's your question?
Hi, so I'm at the doctor's office right now. I'm so sorry if there's background noise.
That's okay.
I wanted to tune in even though I was busy. So I have my master's in creative writing and English literature. And I've published a lot of my pieces, short fictions, and poetry in literary magazines in Canada. I'm based in Toronto. And I'm just wondering how I would best represent that in my resume.
Yeah.
Like what section would that go in?
Yeah, usually that would go in the personal section, the last one, which is kind of the catch-all for I'm interesting. And it's actually, for me, every resume I look at, it's the first one I look at. And if you tell me that you like reading and cooking, I'm like, If you tell me that you like chocolate and published literary work and hike with your shoes on backwards. I don't know what it is, but like any of those kind of spicy, interesting fun facts about you usually fit best in there. And something as substantial as that you might want to put in its own bullet point.
Okay. And I also like those published works are sort of the synthesis of the research that I undertook in my master's and also in my undergrad, which I won grants for. So I'm wondering how to connect those two things together, because it's sort of like the research and then findings of research. And it was also
if you're
funded.
in university, those are the kinds of things that would fit in a bullet point. You would say like, right, I conducted this research, or you'd maybe lead in with, I won a $5,000 grant. Like, for example, when I was in undergrad, I won a $3,500 grant to have a summer project of research. So I studied malaria in West Africa, right? So that was like a 2-line bullet point under my educational experience. And so usually it would fit under the educational experience. It might be substantial enough that it would be a leadership experience where you would highlight the research that you did and the interviews that you conducted, and then the summary of the published work in there. It's hard for me without looking at your whole resume to know how that would fit in the balance, but those are the options for what you could look for there.
Okay. So either leadership or education.
Yeah,
okay.
Generally leadership or education. Generally we try to keep work to the stuff that you were paid to do.
So, no, yeah, absolutely. I have it under leadership at the moment, and I was wondering if that's the right place for it, because it was self-led, right? That I didn't have a team or anything. I was leading the project by myself.
Totally. And that's awesome. But then it does, I think if it was a university grant and during the time that you were there, it probably fits better under those as examples of the type of research that you could do.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time today.
You bet. Thanks for asking the question. Awesome. And last question, Mayank.
Thank you for the opportunity. I wanted to ask about entrepreneurship experience. I was involved in the family business while I was working a full-time job. I was working in the weekends, managing the business, and it was for almost 4 years I did this. Should I mention this in my resume as relevant work experience or just skip it?
Why would you skip it?
Because it was part-time. I mean, I don't know if they want full-time experience, less than 20 hours. It was around 20 hours or less than 20 hours. So that was one of my concerns.
So Mike, first of all, any family business you wouldn't put as a family business. You would just, tell me what the business is. And if it's legitimate work experience, it's legitimate work experience. So it doesn't really matter whether it's part-time or not. The great thing about consulting jobs in the industry in general is that you basically cannot negotiate your pay. And so what that means is that they don't care how many hours you worked or how much you were paid in your previous jobs. All that they care about is whether you can do theirs. And so if it helps to prove that you could do the job for them, if you're demonstrating a skill that's unique or a part of your story that you'd want to talk about in interviews, I would definitely include it. I think that can really be beneficial and interesting for people to hear about.
Okay, thank you. Also, a quick question. I've mentioned it in my resume I have not continued that work experience because I've taken a backseat in that family business, and my brother and my family members are managing it. But I do look after the finance operations as and when needed. So should I incorporate this there, like where I am involved in the business as and when needed, or just end a date where I was more actively involved?
Are you currently employed somewhere else right now?
I'm in the MBA program.
Then I would include present.
Okay.
Yeah, I would include it to present. If you have another full-time job, it would be a little confusing to somebody to say like I have these 2 full-time jobs, right? Because you're not going to put part-time or full-time on there, so that the dates would be confusing otherwise. But yes, I would put that in there if you're in the MBA program.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, pleasure. Wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for your time today. Really, cheering you on. We love the storytelling process. We really enjoy being a part of your journey. And you can always reach out to us privately. So I'll pop my personal LinkedIn into the chat. And with that, we'll sign off for the day. Japheth, anything else that we need to do before people leave?
No, just want to say best of luck to everyone applying to BCG tonight. Good luck.
Yeah, go get them.
Yeah, go get them and let us know what happens and how we can help. We'd love to work with you. All
Thanks,
right.
everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye all.